Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by patrons like Go Comics, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Den, Nestor Flores, Sotosan0424, and VideoGamer75. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are back once again, so soon, to talk about Star Wars Legion, because they did that stream thing. So, I said this on the video that went public today, but I recorded it yesterday, that FFG was doing a Legion stream, and there was going to be some new rules and stuff they were going to talk about, so everybody should look forward to that. Well, they did it. I watched it. I was there. And so there's now an official, the document is dropped already. They said it would at the end of the stream, and it did. But there is an official 500-point skirmish format for Legion. So it's pretty brief right now, but I'll run you through the basics, and, you know, we can talk about it and stuff. I watched them do it on stream, and it's pretty interesting. I kind of like what they're going for, so... before we explain the differences, you know, Alex Davey was on the stream. He wasn't playing, but he was there to kind of talk about some of the stuff. So he said that they kind of came to this idea based on like operations and stuff, that there were some different point formats, and I believe the Learn to Play game is also, I think that's 500 off the top of my head, but it has a very specific setup. So one of the things they wanted to do was make something more robust than the Learn to Play, but kind of more accessible than operations. So they decided for kind of a middle ground with Skirmish. So they wanted to redefine a smaller, quicker-to-play format so that you could get started sooner, so that smaller venues could offer demos and events. There's tournament suggestions, for instance. They don't know what OP is going to do with this exactly, but there should be like tournament kits and stuff for this, and it will be side events at major tournaments. There's not going to be like a Skirmish World Champion, they said, but the intent is for it to be run in certain official formats. And just to allow even veteran players to get plays in quicker. So, Skirmish is a 500-point format. It's your 500 limit. You cannot exceed 500. So, let's just run through some of the quick basic stuff. The game ends after 5 rounds rather than 6, so it's a whole round shorter. The play field is reduced significantly. It's on a 3x3 rather than 3x6. Though, as a lot of people said, that normally it's you need a 4x6 table anyway to put all your cards and gubs. Skirmish uses its own battle cards, which are adjusted for the format. And I hope that some of these ideas they pull over, because some of them are neat. But anyway. So, the important thing with army building is they have different rank rules, because apparently they playtested this out. So, you need exactly one commander, no double commanders. They found that was apparently could be pretty rough. And I can see why, how you could get some Pocket Wonder Twins or something in there, or some other, or, double cheap commanders. You could do a lot of shenanigans, which would make it hard for you to do stuff, or too easy to do other stuff. You can include up to 1 operative. You must include 2 to 4 core units, so you need 1 less, but you can take a maximum of 2 less. You can include up to 2 special forces, up to 2 support, up to 1 heavy. And according to Alex Davies in playtesting, heavies can make a really great centerpiece unit and really tear up Skirmish. The only other important thing I think that matters for this is that they highly recommend that you cover the field with 1/3 terrain using a mix that blocks line of sight and cover. They said that it's, especially in this smaller space, that's absolutely essential. But I think combining those, also kind of the unspoken rule of why they wanted to do this, is because the way the competitive mindset works, and this isn't me a doff on competitive players, but the way the competitive mindset works is you look at your point total, you look at your maximum number of units and activations, you go, okay, the actuarial tables say that I need this many activations of such and such power, and then, so-and-so range to capitalize on this, and you're like, well, fleets don't have range 3, so we throw them out. Or, considering the amount of activations I get, the ATST is too expensive. Throw it out. Right? So you have these issues where people are like, this isn't as efficient as it could be. Well, when you have significantly less unit caps, right? So it's not just that you have to include 1 less core. You can't include as many core units, right? You can only include 4. And you have less points. You need to include exactly 1 commander, so there's no concern about double commanders, stuff like that. The game gets a little bit more free, and with the range reduced, your gains for having range are significantly decreased. They used Phase 1 clones with, one of the guys used Phase 1 clones with the DP-23, and it seemed to do him pretty good there with a little bit of Pierce. they got kind of forted up behind a barricade and were able to fire off some stuff. So I think what this does is, well, obviously for major tournaments, and a lot of players are going to be thinking in this 800-point format, they're going to be units which, while they may not be on top right now in the like high-level 800-point format, they're going to be units that are going to be like, oh, but those guys are going to be great in 500, Like Alex Davies said, for instance, he had great responses, did really well with Jin and Pathfinders in Skirmish, because it's a smaller map and point cap, but because they can, teleport anywhere, just, you can plonk them down pretty interesting places if you can place first. And I think that there are some units, for instance, that don't work that. With that terrain density and that smaller size, I would not want to use speeder units at all. That's a lot of, that's a lot of T-47s, doing loop-to-loops and stuff. So, I think that, hover vehicles or ground vehicles are going to be a lot better off in Skirmish than repulsor speeder vehicles, because you're going to have a lot of terrain you're going to need to scoot around, and not a lot of wiggle room. But I do think it helps shorter range units, because you can get your engagements a lot quicker, you can play a lot differently, and it can be very interesting. So that's the basic rule stuff. There's some event guidance, but we're not going to touch on that, because that's more for people who are planning on getting stuff. So I figured, let's see, how long have we been going? About 5 minutes? I figured we'd talk about the different battle cards, because they have their own custom ones, and they got a photocopy sheet that you can print and photocopy for personal use. And I kind of wanted to talk about them and some of the other stuff, since I don't think there's much else to talk about with Skirmish overall until we get into that. And then at the end, we'll kind of talk about, what's really good in this, what's not good in this, and kind of, how it changes things around. So there are 4 objectives, which have all been reconfigured for Skirmish. So there's Breach, Pivotal Positions, Elimination, and Control. So Breach is basically breakthrough, kind of. At the end of the game, by the way, if my voiceover sounds weird, that's because I'm tilting slightly to read the cards. You know what? I've got paint. I'll do myself a solid and just print screen and rotate this so I don't have to keep tilting my head. Are you in zoom mode? Don't do that. I need you to grab these, and then I rotate it in the wrong 90 degrees. Crop page up. Sorry about that. On the fly editing. So, Breach, Victory. Yeah, blowing my mic pretty hard because I was fiddling with my mouse. Sorry about that. So, Breach, Victory. At the end of the game, each player gets 2 victory tokens for each of their unit leaders within range 1 of the enemy edge of the battlefield. So this is slightly different. One thing they said is that for stuff like Breach and Control, they wanted to make sure it's more victory tokens, because they wanted it to, because doing stuff like Secret Mission or like Bounty is a lot easier when you've got the smaller space. So next up is Pivotal Positions, which is like key positions. You place an objective token on the piece of terrain closest to the center, and then each player places 1 token. Token must be placed on a piece of terrain that is completely outside deployment zones and beyond range 1 of any other token, or any other token or terrain, or any other terrain with a token, I should say. Is how it's phrased. And then there's an exception, but basically for each terrain piece, at the end of the game, you have the most unit leaders in base contact with, two victory tokens. Elimination is a dead simple format, your most basic ass. Check it out. That's, at the end of the game, you gain 1 victory token for each defeated enemy unit, and 1 additional victory token if it was a commander, operative, or heavy. So, you want to be careful if your opponent has a lot of, if they're using like a commander operative list or they're using a heavy in their list, you might want to consider pushing for elimination and then trying to dob those in. And then Control, you place 1 objective token at the center of the battlefield at the end of rounds 2 and 4, or possibly 2 through 4, I'm not sure. Each player gains 1 victory token if they control the objective token, and at the end you gain 2 at the end of the game. And a player controls it if they have the most unit leaders in range 1. So that's those. So pretty basic stuff. They're all, keylines and stuff, and elimination is basically, deathmatch. Team deathmatch. Actually, because there were 4 people on stream, I was a little curious when it started, because I was like some people were like, oh my god, are they gonna preview those commanders they haven't announced yet? Though, I'm terrible with names. Stream Guide did confirm that there would be more announcements for Legion before Christmas, so we'll see how that works out.
but I wondered if they were going to do an official 2v2 format. But no, it was basically 2 MCs to talk about game stuff while the 2 guys played the format. We have condition cards now, so there's another version of clear conditions, no effect. There's War Weary, which is when checking whether a unit is panicked, the range at which a unit can use a friendly commander's courage instead of its own is reduced by 2 to a minimum of 1. So your normal range is 3, so it automatically becomes 1. Though there are some things that can increase that bubble, I think. I'm not sure, but yeah, basically, your units have to be closer to your commander if they don't want to panic. Not that that's hard in this type of format, but it can be, it can be harder. Okay, so let's pull the scroll. So the second page will be all of them. So hold on real quick while I do my flippy do. But yeah, so actually I think War Weary is a really interesting way to take that. And if people want to just, like for friendly games, if you wanted to just take some of these concepts and put them in the thing, it's fine. So, next up condition is improvised defenses setup. Starting with the blue player, players alternate placing barricades on the battlefield until 4 barricades are placed. When they place a barricade, it must be within their deployment zone or within range 1 to 2, must be placed horizontally. So you can't tip them end to end. But yeah, so that's an interesting concept, which is just like, just throw some extra barricades out there. In addition to the heavy cover terrain. I like that a lot. Like I said, that's something that sounds like it would be fun to just reintroduce to the regular point game. Maybe up until like 6 or something, or double it fully to 8, I don't know. But that's a really interesting idea to let you leverage your defenses. And then there's the final condition card is Dawn, which is like low visibility, but during the first round you can't perform ranged attacks beyond range 2. This I feel like is a pretty standard one for this format to just even the playing field, level some stuff out and be like, nah, you gotta do some things. And then deployments. So some of these are pretty interesting. First of all, they kind of alternate how they work. Like sometimes you're in one corner, sometimes you're in another. So the first one is Face Off. This is super interesting. They played this in the stream. Each player's deployment zone is a range to half circle, measured from the center point of their player edge. So that's a really interesting idea, and I hope they bring that back because that means you can get pretty close. There's just battle lines, which is you have range 1 of the entire board edge. Flanking positions is you have... shoot, I can't into the names of what deployment that is off the top of my head, but it's the corner one. So it's, just range 3 total on the sides and then range 1 out. And then meeting engagement is range 2 out on both sides into the corner, a square, opposite each other, which is pretty interesting. So those are all the cards and stuff. Like I said, I really like some of these ideas, and I hope some of them make it back into the full 800-point format. Like, I'd love improvised defenses. And if you're just playing casually, like as always, if you want to just, play elimination or play improvised defenses in a normal game, I wouldn't stop you. Seems fun. War Weary is also an interesting condition. And quite frankly, the way I feel, the more conditions they are that aren't too harsh, like they feel like something you'd want to take advantage of, the less likely we are to have more clear conditions, because that's just, I don't, especially for competitive play, I don't like that clear conditions exists. Like, I don't think that people should get a free pass, they should just get rid of it. I know there's some randomization and stuff, but just, I don't like that it exists at all. It's too easy and simple, because that's the thing about fighting in a lot of cases, and especially even in tactical games like this, I should say, not especially in, is that no plan survives contact with the enemy and stuff, and at no point do you have perfect control over the situation, so I don't necessarily agree with the idea that you can just be like, oh, here's a thing I don't have to worry about, right? I can pick some battles where I don't have to worry about conditions, it's just like, nah. But I get why it exists, and like they were saying, if you wanted to do the most basic teaching game of Legion, the one they did, which was elimination, clear conditions, and Face Off, is a great teaching game, because it's just kill units, you have a big bubble to place your units in, there's no extra conditions, So that's pretty interesting. So my overall thoughts, one, I think it's a good idea for the game. I think Alex Davies said it pretty good, that like, this is a way they can bring some of that spark of operations and some other interesting stuff they were doing with OP to a broader format. Not that I do a lot of playing in stores, because as you know, I don't do a lot of physical Legion stuff, just because where I am and my budget. But I can think about the game and stuff. That is good to give smaller venues the possibility for more tables. And just, some people complain about the length, and this is just, here, just do it quicker. But I do like that it presents a different tactical challenge. This is something I've noticed is a lot of people, Legion's been out long enough that a lot of people are getting set in their ways, whether that's just this is their style or just... So here's the thing I should tell you. Guys, when you're talking about your opinions, be sure to phrase them as your opinions and not fact. Because it can be, you can come across, I don't know if you intend to be this way, but some people can come across as very disparaging when they talk about stuff. There's been some contention, for instance, with R2-D2, where, some people are like, oh, I don't think R2 is very good. I don't think he fits my style at all. And then somebody comes in, well, I don't know, I've been having some success and stuff, been working on him. And then you're like, somebody literally said, oh, then your opponents weren't very good. There is no reason to denigrate other players of this game just because a situation isn't to your opinion. You can perfectly well be like, I don't know if I like R2. Like, I don't know if I want to take that risk for that extra victory point, or whatever you're using R2 for. See that video that came out yesterday by the time this goes public. But with your phrasing, be careful how you approach things, because, we're all part of the same community, and there's no reason to be mean or discouraging to other players because you would have done things differently. Well, guess what? Maybe you would have done things differently and you still would have lost, That's the thing about no plan survives contact. You don't know what'll happen until then. My personal theory is that the correct response to that situation is when you don't think something is good or something is not to your style, but somebody's like, oh, I had great success. You should ask them how and why they did things, and then after they have explained themselves, compare it to your own opinions and style, because you can be like, okay, you had success, but that's still not my play style. Like, they set up a build in a way that wouldn't fit me. Or you might actually learn something and be like, oh, okay, even if I'm not going to use R2, if I see somebody playing R2 this way, I should be on guard. Otherwise, I will be the dumb player who didn't play right and lost too easily, So yeah, that's just a thing that I think, in general, a lot of people are starting to get dyed in the wool about the way they feel about certain things, even with so many units coming out all the time. And I think that 500-point skirmish really evens stuff up, because it's going to change the planes of assessment. You can be like, oh, I don't know, like some people are already like, I don't think I like B2s after this stream, because they have a 3 red weapon, but it's also ranged 1 to 2, but it's pretty short ranged for their possibilities, and they're a little tanky, but they're not that tanky. Alex Davies phrased it as kind of like they're great as a counterpunch. They're great as, like, reserve back of the line units if your own opponent is getting aggressive. And I would agree. I think that if you're playing, for instance, if you were playing Breakthrough or Breach in the skirmish format, they're probably pretty good, because you can have them kind of hug back and cover and wait until your opponent has to close and then be like, well, you're here already, right? So they benefit certain objectives and certain styles. For instance, if you're playing key positions or something, you may want to keep your B2s back in reserve to secure a point while you move, waves of B1s or something like Grievous or Dooku. Dooku got some sick shots in on stream, by the way. But you might want to keep B2s in reserve while you take those lighter, more expendable boys, but with more range and bullets out there to, like, press on enemy objectives, right? But also, I think it's a lot harder to say, oh man, range 2 is trash, when the board is so much shorter, and one of your conditions is, well, you can't make ranged attacks beyond range 2 on the first turn. So, you got a lot of wiggle room. Like, if you get face off and you put B2s right at the front of that spearhead, they can probably close the distance pretty good, and shoot, what is their base weapon? I forget. I watched the stream, you'd think I would remember, but I don't remember what their basic weapon is off the top of my head. So B2 Secret Battle Droid, so it's their base attack. Okay, so it's a black-white, they're 48 points, you get 3, so that's 3 black, 3 white, 3 red, so triple rainbow. That's not awful, especially considering they are droids with 2 courage, so it's not like they get suppressed ever. Heck, they're not even gonna panic ever. It's like I talk about it with R2. That's a lot of panic space. Though they are still, they're still a white die with no surge. It's just they have 2 wounds and armor 1. Though the Separatist player in the stream put them up on a ridge, with around near some barricades. So they had a lot of cover. It took a while for them to be whittled down. But yeah, so like I'm saying, Skirmish offers a new format that will, change the planes of thought. People will think about stuff, and you'll probably be right. Fleets probably still aren't very good in the 3x6, 800-point format, barring certain very specific plays, because they are still squishy. And now that Range Band 5 exists, Range 2 is definitely on the lower scale, right? This was a topic I never got to make a video about, but I was thinking about classifying weapons, and I was like, if we think about it, Range 2, if we've only got 4 bands and then beyond, which is just everything, Range 2 is not actually that short. No, now that we have 5 range bands, yes, 2 is on the short side. There is a long side and a short side, and 3 is smack in the middle, because symmetry works better that way. But yeah, so those guys are probably not great. But hey, I would bet a lot of Rebel skirmish lists are going to start with, okay, let's do 2 fleet troopers with scatterguns and make sure that Dawn is in my condition deck, because those guys are going to be able to get in range a lot sooner, or they're going to be able to fort up in places your opponent needs to be a lot easier because there's less room. So that, I think, will change how people play, and it will be a legit thing to say, well, I don't know if this unit is great in 800, but he's probably pretty good in 500. Now, if only they would... Maybe it's because there's still not quite enough units for that, but while Grand Army is an official format, I don't ever hear anybody play it. It would be great if they added a little bit extra to Grand Army, like gave it its own battle cards or something, I don't know, so that we could have the full, 3 levels of, okay, so some units are good when you're low points, low distance, close quarters, other units are good in kind of this medium format, and then some units become great when you're in Grand Army, and you can comfortably do a double AT-ST, a double AAT list, with commanders and gubs, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's a good addition. Stay tuned for more news, apparently. There's going to be at least one more announcement before Christmas, so I'm guessing early December announcement. Dewbacks are finally going to come out. They're going to be officially released tomorrow, so that'll be cool, because Dewbacks are a really interesting, flexible unit. That it is such a shame they have not been out in the wild other than on TTS for very long, because I really want to see if people appreciate them, because they can be really nasty. They have Relentless, they've got a rough melee attack, they've got the RT-97C, so they've got that light machine gun option. They've got a flamer, and they've got a T-21, which, while it's not the same range as the RT, the T-21, they are a relentless unit. They do have spur and critical, they can put some hurt on. But okay, I think that's everything in the video. Thanks for tuning in for this quickie, guys. So I'll go ahead and let you guys go. If you have thoughts about the skirmish format, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. Is there any other alternate formats you'd like? Anything like that, So go ahead and like the video if you like it. Like I said, leave a comment if you have any of those, your reactions, your thoughts. You can also join our Discord. That link is in the description and on our channel page. Consider subscribing to our channel so you can always get our latest videos, and considering that bell for notifications so you always know when we post a new video. And like it says at the front of the show, consider supporting us on Patreon and get access to this early. Lots of other goodies. Helps us out. Keeps it real. Alrighty, guys. So I'll see you at dawn, and stay tuned for future videos. Alright, I'm outie.